Week 2 of Big Brother 27 has come and gone, and we are truly in old school Big Brother territory. Everybody hates somebody in this house, whether it be for gameplay reasons, for personal reasons, or for straight up petty reasons. Everybody in this house is a mess, barely anybody is playing optimally, and this house is slowly devolving into chaos. But how did it all break down? Well, that's why I'm here. In this video, I'm going to be recapping the events of week 2 of Big Brother 27 and giving my updated power rankings. So with all of that preamble out of the way, it is the one and only RJ21 here, and let's get into the Big Brother 27 week 2 recap and power ranking. Week 2 starts off with the BB breaking HOH competition, which is basically the black box. Essentially, the houseguests have to traverse a pitch black area looking for stolen items and returning them to their rightful spot. Whoever can return the HOH key to its rightful place will become the new head of household. But that's not all. Alongside the HOH key are 3 stolen items that are actually secret powers, and whoever finds those items will gain said secret power, meaning this competition has 4 winners, 1 HOH and 3 secret power winners. In the end, Keanu, Mickey, and Kelley end up winning the secret powers, while Jimmy becomes the new head of household. We then learn what each of the secret power winners won. Keanu won the mystery competitor power, which essentially allows him to summon a former Big Brother houseguest to play alongside him in the veto competition if he is nominated. And if that BB alumni wins the veto competition, they must give it to Keanu, essentially doubling his chances at winning the power of veto. Kelley is given the mystery veto power, which is essentially a second veto. If Kelley is on the block post-veto ceremony, she can activate her power that allows her to compete in a solo veto competition, to where if she wins it, she earns a second golden power veto that she can use to veto one of the nominees. Finally, Mickey gets the HOH interrogation power, which is essentially like the coup d'etat or the deepfake HOH from last season, except it's a little bit different. With Mickey's power, she is able to overthrow the current HOH and make her own nominations. However, the current HOH has the ability to interrogate every single houseguest, and if the current HOH can identify Mickey as the one who overthrew their HOH, then Mickey's nominations are nullified and the HOH gets to keep their initial nomination. However, if the current HOH cannot identify Mickey, then the original HOH is dethroned and Mickey's nominations will stay intact. Clearly, none of these houseguests watched my previous video about what to do when you're in possession of information about a secret power, especially as a secret power holder, because all of them leaked it. Keanu chose to tell Kelley about his secret power, and in good faith, Kelley told Keanu about her secret power. But Kelley also told Jimmy about her secret power because Jimmy was essentially the one who helped Kelley earn her secret power, making a little bit of mistrust between Jimmy, Kelley, and Keanu. And Mickey decided to tell Morgan about her power. So essentially, none of these 3 powers are hidden whatsoever. Jimmy is then talking about his HOH nominations. He obviously wants to target Keanu, and after learning that Kelley told Keanu about her power, this definitely makes Jimmy a little sketch about Kelley and Keanu's relationship, making Kelley an easy second nominee. However, Jimmy has to find a third nominee, and so Jimmy looks at the people who didn't vote in the majority and people who aren't necessarily aligned with him. So he looks at Adrian as a pawn, and despite Adrian vehemently denying or saying that he doesn't want to be a pawn, Jimmy tries reassuring him that Adrian is the pawn. So at the nomination ceremony, Jimmy chooses to nominate Kelley, Adrian, and Keanu, with Keanu as the target. After the nomination ceremony, Keanu decides to tell Vince about his secret power and how he is going to activate it, just so he can maximize his chances of winning the veto this week, especially since he recognizes that he is the target. So, when they pick players for the power veto competition, Keanu stands up and announces that he is activating his mystery competitor power, essentially doubling his chances of winning the veto. But after he announces that he's activating his power, Keanu and Jimmy get into another fight where they're both calling each other liars, and Keanu, for some reason, decides to oust every single person in the house and says that he's going to take each and every one of them out one by one, which is so unnecessary, but you go for it, Keanu. After Jimmy and Keanu have their fight, they resume with picking players for the veto competition, where only one person is going to be chosen, since Keanu's mystery competitor takes up another slot. Jimmy ends up choosing Ava for this veto competition. After picking players for the veto competition, we should just go straight to the veto competition, but there is another fight with Keanu involved, this time involving Ashley. Keanu and Ashley are basically arguing about how Keanu is this perpetual target and how Keanu is always going to be a threat to other people in this game. And Ashley is saying that his comment about, oh, he's going to take everybody out one by one, really rubbed her the wrong way. And it's like, you put yourself in this position. And it's a fun fight, but it's so unnecessary on both parties. We then get to the caught creepin' power veto competition, which is essentially a variation of the Ready, Set, Whoa competition that we haven't seen since around Big Brother All-Stars. Except this competition is themed around Big Brother 25 alumni Felicia. And having her in this competition was so much funny, and I love the references, like how she has the food in her pocket and how she keeps dropping her devices in the water. It's just so funny. But anyways, back to the competition. In this competition, the house guests have to listen out for Felicia to say a certain word, creeper. If Felicia says creeper, all the house guests have to race to their buzzer, and the last person to hit it in any given round is eliminated. Also, if you release your button before Felicia says the word creeper, you are also eliminated. The last house guest standing will win the golden power of veto. However, before we get to the veto competition, we need to find out who Keanu's mystery competitor is. And it turns out that Keanu summoned Big Brother 20 winner and challenge veteran in Casey Clark. And this pretty much guarantees that Keanu is going to win the veto because, come on, it's Casey Clark, self-proclaimed veto queen. Like, who is going to beat Casey in this veto? Ultimately, the competition comes down to Adrian and, who would have guessed it, Casey, with Casey winning this power of veto, granting Keanu the golden power of veto. With Keanu winning the power of veto and Kelley more likely than not activating her mystery veto power, Jimmy has to think of two people he has to renom. And in his conversation with his close allies, he tells them that he is thinking of nominating both Amy and Will because he believes it's going to put the least amount of blood on his hands. However, a lot of his allies, most specifically Morgan and Mickey, really do not agree with Jimmy's nominations as they are really him playing it safe. And this is Jimmy's opportunity to take a big swing. And with all the theatrics he has, you would assume that he would want to make big moves. And putting up Amy and Will would be the exact opposite, which is really rubbing his allies the wrong way. We then go to the backyard where we see Rachel and Keanu trying to bond. And it doesn't end up going well because Keanu only talks about Rachel's bad highlights and all of the fights that Rachel got into where she got owned in all of those arguments. And it starts yet another fight with Keanu, this time with Rachel, as they're going back and forth bickering about how Keanu is trying to get underneath Rachel's skin. And it's just so unnecessary. Like, I understand both parties. Like, I don't think either of them are necessarily wrong, but it's just like, how is another fight with Keanu happening? That is 3 in 1 week. Like, this is crazy. After all of that chaos, at the veto meeting, Keanu, as expected, uses the power veto to save himself, and Jimmy nominates Amy as the replacement nominee. But before the veto ceremony is over, Kelley activates her mystery veto power, allowing her the opportunity to compete in another veto competition where she can earn her second veto. Before the competition begins, there is some downtime, and Keanu capitalizes on that downtime in trying to get Jimmy to nominate Rachel, talking about how Jimmy should make a big move and that putting Rachel up would be a huge move for his resume. And Jimmy actually does consider it for a little bit, but it doesn't really have any legs to go any distance. We then go to Kelley's veto competition, which is the case of the mystery veto, where Kelley has to assemble a puzzle in under 2 minutes. And if she can do that, then she wins her second veto. But if she doesn't, then the mystery veto is gone forever. Ultimately, Kelley doesn't really struggle with the competition, and Kelley, as expected, wins the mystery veto for herself. So, at the second veto ceremony, Kelley uses the power veto to save herself, and Jimmy nominates Will as the second replacement nominee. With none of Jimmy's initial targets staying on the block and no real consensus target amongst the 3 remaining nominees, there is a lot of discourse about who they want to stay. People like Zach want Adrian to stay, while people like Morgan and Mickey want Will to stay, while Rachel really, really wants Amy to stay yet again. So there is a lot of campaigning on all sides to keep each of their individual nominees. We then get to the Puzzling Prince BB Blockbuster competition, which is essentially a really, really big puzzle. Think back to the BBAI Arena from week 2 in Big Brother 26 that Tucker won. It's essentially just one big puzzle that they have to put together, and the first one to correctly assemble it and hit their buzzer will win the BB Blockbuster, earning their safety. Ultimately, it's kind of close for like a decent portion of it, but by the end of it, Adrian wins the BB blockbuster, earning himself off of the block, leaving Amy and Will as the final nominees. We do see some last minute campaigning from the likes of Rachel, but ultimately it's a foregone conclusion, as by a unanimous vote of 13-0, Amy is the second house guest evicted from the Big Brother house.
Let's go! I am the veto queen! Literally came up on top again. I just feel so good right now. I feel so good. I feel like I've been here before.
Now it's time to get to the power rankings. At number 16, the most recently evicted house guest, we have Amy. And it's disappointing to see Amy go, but it was kind of expected. Last week, I had Amy about 3 spots above the bottom, and when the 2 people below her in the power ranking win some sort of safety to keep themselves safe, and Amy doesn't win some sort of safety, it was pretty clear cut that Amy was going to be the one going home. However, there was a really strong push to keep Amy this week. There was a really strong campaign from the likes of Rachel to try and keep Amy in, but ultimately Amy's allegiance and close relationship with Rachel was just way too threatening to keep in the house, as Rachel was slowly amassing more and more power and more numbers, more and more allies, and to try and whittle away at that side, they wanted to get rid of Rachel's right-hand woman, and unfortunately that is Amy. In terms of the game that Amy played, I think it was all right. I mean, she never casted a vote. I mean, she didn't even cast a vote to find the accomplice because she is the accomplice. So you can't really say much about Amy's voting record, but in terms of getting votes herself, she actually broke the record for the most amount of eviction votes received in a single season, receiving 18 votes. So take that as you will. Ultimately, I think Amy's game was nothing to write home about. It wasn't too impressive. She was just on the bottom the entire time, a perpetual pawn that unfortunately, through a lot of secret powers and competition wins, she just gets really unlucky, which is why she's here at number 16.
I wish I had my oracle cards with me right now so I can get a message from my angels of what's gonna come.
Now it's time to talk about the house guests that are actually still in the game. At number 15, the house guest I believe to be in the worst position is still Keanu. Like, if Keanu's overplaying in week 1 wasn't already bad enough, Keanu got into so many fights this week. Like, how do you get into 3 separate fights with 3 separate people in the span of 1 week? This is like peak old school Big Brother. But for Keanu's game, this is horrible. And I guess I understand Keanu's sentiment about wanting to make his target so big that it doesn't even become worth it to try and take him out. But we're so early on into the game that he is an easy target, that people, if they want an easy HOH, they're going to try and take Keanu out. And outside of that, Keanu brings pretty much no value to anybody. If you're going to call everybody out in the house and say, I'm going to pick you all off one by one, who would be incentivized to work with you? Like, it just doesn't make any sense. And beyond that, Keanu is delusional. Keanu genuinely thinks that he can build a working relationship with Jimmy, despite Jimmy not only starting multiple fights with Keanu, but Jimmy nominating him and targeting him for eviction. But Keanu still somehow thinks that it's not Jimmy that hates me, it's actually Rachel that's pitting the 2 of us together. Like, no, just look at it at face value. Occam's razor. Jimmy does not like you and does not want to work with you, so stop trying to work with him. But Keanu is still trying for some reason. At the end of the day, Keanu has no allies, and Keanu is going to be so dependent on winning competitions to get to the end that I have no faith in Keanu moving forward in this game, which is why I have him here at number 15.
Rachel and I aren't necessarily on the same wavelength in game terms, but if I'm going to be here next week, I want to make sure that we can at least get along.
20 minutes later.
Well, that didn't go as planned.
At number 14, I have the outgoing HOH in Jimmy. And Jimmy had such a bad HOH reign. Like, for somebody who is so big on theatrics and making big spectacles out of everything he does, he had such a safe HOH. Like, you're telling me your big move of the week is putting up the 2 oldest house guests? Like, that's so weak and that's so lame. And for somebody who talks about making big moves as much as he does, he had such a pathetic HOH run, and it genuinely isolated so many of his allies. With people having this perception that Jimmy is the type of person to make big moves, they expected him to take big swings and actually target people who are actively coming after Jimmy and Jimmy's side. Somebody like a Rylie, or somebody who's just on the other side who they don't necessarily trust. Jimmy had so many opportunities. He had 2 replacement nominees and had all of those chances to try and make some sort of big move. Like, he could have put up Zach, even though Zach more likely than not would have used his power. He could have put up Rylie, somebody who is not really closely aligned with his side. But instead, he chooses to take the safe route and tries to get the least amount of blood on his hands, which is just so lame. And now none of his allies trust him, and some of them even want to target him. Like, Mickey and Morgan tossed around the idea of using Mickey's HOH interrogation power to try and target Jimmy, when it's like, that's so bad for them in particular, because Jimmy already has enough people coming after him. But the fact that his allies in and of themselves are so willing to turn on Jimmy just shows how poorly Jimmy ran this HOH. And if Jimmy doesn't win future competitions, or his close allies don't win future competitions, he's in a lot of danger, which is why I have him here at number 14.
As a fan of the show, I'm so excited to see her. But remembering she's here to play for Keanu, you're not going to see me clapping.
At number 13, I have Kelley. And Kelley isn't in as blatantly bad of a position as she was in prior weeks, but she's still not in a good one, all things considered. She wasn't the primary target, but she was the secondary target. But she was able to use that Mr. Veto to save herself, so I guess that did buy her a little bit of time in the game. But at the end of the day, she still is at the bottom of the house with very few allies. I mean, she's wanting to work with the likes of Keanu, but that's not necessarily because she wants to, but more so out of necessity, considering the fact that they're both at the bottom, and Keanu is essentially forced an alliance between the two of them, so Kelley kind of has to stick with that, because outside of her and like maybe Vince and Adrian, who does Kelley really have? She's clearly at the bottom of the house. In my opinion, always going to be a perpetual pawn. She's always going to be somebody that is close and easy to put up on the block. But I will say something that is saving Kelley is her competition ability. In the preseason, she said that she's not that competitive of a person, but she's already won 3 competitions. She's won a veto, a blockbuster, and won that secret power. Like, she is a comp beast as of right now. So I wouldn't put it past Kelley to win a future HOH, and that could definitely better her position, depending on if she can gain some trust or garner some good favor with more of the power players. But as of right now, Kelley's not in the greatest position. She's clearly on the bottom, and she just needs to keep winning to keep herself safe or to gain some sort of leverage, which is why I have her here at number 13.
Now Jimmy's gonna have to put up a new replacement nominee 5 in 1 week. Sucks to be Jimmy.
At number 12, I have Katherine. And finally, Katherine is on the feeds. Like, I had no idea where she was last week, so I had no assessment of her game. But now that she's on the feeds, I can rightfully say she's not doing well. She is not doing well whatsoever. She is somehow in this war between Morgan and Mickey. Like, they're on opposing sides, and I have no idea how that happened, but now Katherine is in a really, really precarious position. She does have some really close allies, the likes of Lauren and Rylie, but Katherine is an actual target. Like, people are actively targeting Katherine. People like Mickey and Morgan have said that if they do win HOH, they would nominate the likes of Katherine, Lauren, and Rylie, with Katherine being a primary target if the likes of Keanu or Kelley were to win competitions. And that is really bad. For somebody who is playing as passively as Katherine, becoming this large of a target based purely on really bad social bonds, that's really, really bad. People are saying that Katherine is giving off mean girl energy in the house, and that people are saying that Katherine is two-faced and a liar and somebody who's going to backstab you or talk ish behind your back. Like, those are horrible things for people to say about you. And the fact that you're not winning competitions to put yourself in a position of power or making any sort of big moves that would put that sort of target onto you, the fact that people are making those assumptions about you based purely off of their interactions with you and the vibes that you give off, that's so bad. And it's showing that Katherine is really having really bad initial social plays. And that makes me really worried, to where if we have another like weird situation where the likes of Keanu and Kelley win powers that keep themselves safe, that has an easy layup of Katherine as an easy backup target or a third target. So it makes me really concerned for Katherine, and I'm honestly really scared for her prospects. I don't think she is as big of a target as the likes of like a Keanu or Kelley, but she is still a big target nonetheless, which is why I have her here at number 12.
On a personal level, me and Lauren are getting along so well. I love her, but gameplay-wise, I don't think Lauren is somebody that I would take to the end.
At number 11, I have Adrian. And last week, I said Adrian had the potential to rise up in the rankings if he connected with the power players. And he did in the second half of the week after he was put up on the block. It was clear that Adrian's loyalty to Zay for whatever reason and voting to keep him in the house is clearly what put him up on the block. And through a lot of crazy circumstances, he ends up as the target going into the BB Blockbuster, to where if Adrian doesn't win the BB Blockbuster, he more likely than not goes home. I mean, it is a bit of a toss-up between him and Amy. If Will were to win the Blockbuster, that vote is kind of up in the air. But Adrian was a prime and juicy target for people like Jimmy and Rachel to take out. And it's another situation where if you have Adrian on the block post-Blockbuster, it's like, when are you going to get another opportunity to take a shot like this? So Adrian was clearly in a lot of danger. But I will say that Adrian did a phenomenal job with this campaigning this week. He was able to flip the likes of Morgan and Katherine onto his side, to where they were initially on the fence about whether or not to keep Adrian, but now by the end of the week, they were completely resolute in the fact that they wanted to keep Adrian no matter what. And that is honestly really impressive work from me, and it shows that Adrian does have really good game abilities. Adrian does have the ability to build these bonds and has the ability to sell himself in a good way, is what I meant. But Adrian does have these capabilities, and I think Adrian could capitalize on some of the bonds that he did build this week. However, with him getting put up as a pawn and people starting to pin him as a target, I don't think that target is washing off of him anytime soon. I think that if he does get put up on the block, it's not going to be as a pawn next time. So that does definitely leave him in some dangerous circumstances, but I do think Adrian has the ability to recover, as we did see this week, which is why I have him here at number 11.
Jimmy, are you freaking kidding me? I don't want to end up that way too. That's a freaking chicken move, bro. There's bigger fish to fry.
At number 10, I have my preseason winner pick in Ashley. And actually did some pretty decent work this week. She laid low. She stayed definitely more low-key and under the radar than she did last week. But she is still so socially unaware of her surroundings. It's actually insane. People are starting to now make compilations of Ashley saying things in situations where she definitely shouldn't say things. And these are things that are like funny on paper. Like, they're absolutely hilarious. But if you're somebody in the house who is constantly hearing these things, it's the tiny things that add up. And it's all of these small little actions that Ashley is making and saying that is rubbing a lot of people the wrong way, that I think is making her a bigger target than she actually is. At the end of the day, I do think Ashley has a pretty solid backing around her. It's clear that she's been able to integrate herself with the likes of Mickey and Morgan. She clearly has some sort of final two-ish with Rachel now that Amy is gone. And Ashley does have a lot of working relationships that I do think can carry her far. I just need her to capitalize on them a bit more by really, really strengthening them. Because even though she is in those core power structures, she's still towards the bottom of them. Like, even though she is technically being brought to jury, she's being placed around like the 9th, 8th, 7th area, which is definitely not good for her. But I think Ashley just needs to branch out more and build more connections. And if she can do that, I think she's going to be in a pretty good position. But as of right now, she's doing a fine job, which is why I have her here at number 10.
Keanu says he's gonna pick us off one by one, and I'm pissed. I'm bothered by his behavior, and it just shows me that he thinks he is running this house, and I'm not rocking with it.
At number 9, I have Rachel. And Rachel losing Amy is probably a really bad thing in the short term, but I think long-term wise, I think this is actually a best case scenario for Rachel. Now that Amy is no longer seen as Rachel's number one closest ally, it definitely frees up Rachel as a bit more of a free agent. Not in the sense that she's going to be a floater and can go between both sides, but more so in the fact that people can now build a much tighter bond with Rachel. And more people can start assuming that position of being Rachel's right-hand person. Now that that spot is open, I think some people are definitely incentivized to want to take that position. Somebody like a Jimmy could really benefit from taking that position, and I think that is going to be a net positive for them. So I do think that puts more value into Rachel as a player. Adding on to that, a lot of people are saying that they want to take Rachel at least to jury because Rachel is going to be a good juror. And I think that spells really good prospects for her. I mean, the fact that so many people are saying that they want to take Rachel far is an amazing thing for her. Plus, she still has heck of numbers behind her, like the likes of Jimmy, Morgan, Mickey, Ashley. Like, she still has a butt ton of allies that could help her out if she was in a predicament like Keanu winning HOH. So if she were ever in a situation like that, she does have enough backing that I think are incentivized enough to keep Rachel around. But that is still to say that Rachel is in a bit of a dangerous position. She's Rachel Rylie, and she's always going to have that target on her back. Plus, the arguments she's had with like the likes of Keanu are definitely not helping her in the grand scheme of things. So while I do think Rachel has a really good backing behind her, and I think Rachel's value as a player and an asset has skyrocketed now that Amy's out of the house, I do think Rachel is still in a bit of danger, which is keeping her down here at number 9.
I'm living for this. I love a good fight.
The next day.
Those are things that normal people would say, but people that are trying to push your buttons are going to pick out your flaws. Get out of here, Keanu. Like, please.
At number 8, I have Lauren. And Lauren is definitely impressing me as a player. She is a much bigger fan than she initially let on, and she is a much bigger fan than she is letting on to the rest of her house guests, so that is definitely playing in her favor. Lauren is really aware of her position in the house. She recognizes that she's in the middle of these two sides, and if she plays her cards correctly, she can float in between both sides. And the fact that she's recognizing that is really, really good. The problem is that other people in the house are also clocking that, and it is making her a bit of a target. Despite Lauren being in the center of the house, she is very closely aligned with the likes of Katherine and Rylie by extension. And because Katherine does have that huge target on her back, that also makes Lauren a target by extension. However, I don't think Lauren would be a secondary target that people would be incentivized to get out. Like if Katherine were to win a veto, I don't think people are going to be itching to be like, let's get Lauren out, you know? So I do think Lauren has some protection in that sense, but I do think the fact that people are starting to clock that Lauren is in this middle position and they're essentially forcing her to choose a side is really, really bad for her. I think Lauren just needs to look a little bit more committal. She doesn't actually have to commit to one side or the other, but she just has to look that way. Because if she's making it abundantly clear that she is some sort of floater, people just aren't going to trust that. So I do think Lauren has the potential to be in a really good position. I really just want Lauren to continue playing that middle and playing it a little bit better, a little bit cleaner. And because she hasn't done that quite yet, I have her here at number 8.
So I feel like there's sort of two definitive sides that are forming at this point, and I am somewhere in between. I think knocking out a number for Rachel's side would make a more level playing field where I can stay in the middle.
At number 7, I have Rylie, and somehow Rylie is this high despite doing nothing except obsessing over a potential showmance with Katherine. Like, that is pretty much all Rylie has done in this game. He's basically just announced his undying loyalty to Katherine and how he's willing to fall on the sword for Katherine. And it's just like weird, but it's like, okay, I guess, because Rylie has committed so much of his time to Katherine. He is in the middle alongside Katherine and Lauren, which does make that trio a bit of a target. But out of those three, I do think that Rylie is in the best position because I feel like more people are incentivized to keep Rylie around than Lauren. Despite Lauren being a less threatening player, I think people perceive Rylie as a more valuable asset, which is going to incentivize people to keep Rylie in the house more. I think some of these like bro-y type of guys, like the likes of Zach and Adrian, feel inclined to keep somebody like Rylie around because he is somebody who is going to potentially win a competition that is going to keep them safe, and Rylie is somebody who is potentially going to target Rachel's side of the house, even though Rylie has committed some of his loyalty to Rachel and Rachel's allies by extension. But that's besides the point. People think Rylie is on their side, and Rylie could win a competition that is going to favor them. So it puts Rylie in a really comfortable middle position. And unlike Lauren, Rylie has made it abundantly clear, at least to both sides, that he is actually loyal to them, despite not actually being loyal to them. He's making it appear that way, and that appearance is all that Rylie needs. So if Rylie can keep riding this middle position, I think Rylie is going to be in a really, really good spot moving forward, which is why I have him here at number 7.
So I'm seeing these guys dressed up as potted plants, and honestly, I'm jealous. Man, if I had one of them, I'd be able to bag any buck that crossed my path.
At number 6, I have Will. And Will getting put up on the block was definitely not a good thing. I definitely do think it put him in a real position of danger. When Will was first put up on the block, I was genuinely concerned for him. I thought that there was a realistic chance that Rachel would be able to gather up all the allies, or Adrian would be able to campaign himself as a big enough asset to other people that it would put Will in a position of danger. However, by the end of the week, Will ends up being the most safe nominee, to where no matter what, I think Will was staying because Adrian is a bigger threat and Amy is an expendable number that they need to get rid of to weaken Rachel. So by extension, I think that makes Will probably the safest nominee out of the three. However, despite Will being a nominee, Will actually built a lot of good bonds this week. He has been included in this sort of like 5-person alliance that is being structured by Mickey and Morgan, and they're actively wanting to bring him super deep into the game. Will is propping himself up to be this really trustworthy figure, somebody that you can always depend on. And even though Will is saying that he is struggling to build really deep bonds and connections with all these people, Will is doing an amazing job. Everybody loves Will and everybody wants to actively work with Will. Will has a lot of good connections in this game. Even though he is being brought onto the side of like Mickey and Morgan and them wanting to take Will super far, he also has the bond and he has final twos with the likes of Ava and really good working relationships with the likes of Adrian. So I think Will is honestly in a really, really good spot. Even though Will is saying that he's struggling, I don't think he is. I think he's underplaying himself just a little bit. But my biggest worry about Will is the fact that he has been put up on the block. Who's to say that, like, oh, he's already been put up on the block, why not we just do it again? You know? And I think that does undervalue Will just a little bit in other people's eyes. And so because of that, I have to put Will here at number 6.
Burger Boys could get picked off one by one. No burger, no bun, no onions, no ketchup, nothing. Just gone. You know what I'm saying? That math ain't mathin'. Well, damn it, math is mathin'.
At number 5, I have Morgan. And this might be a bit of a controversial choice, but hear me out for just a second. Morgan has a strategic stranglehold on this game. There is no denying that. Morgan was probably one of the most active campaigners to flip the vote onto Amy and keep Adrian in this game. Like, Morgan is probably one of the most active people in getting that flip to happen. And the fact that Morgan was able to actually make that plan go through speaks dividends about how influential of a player she is. The problem is that other people are seeing how influential of a player she is. Despite her campaigning all week to keep Adrian in this house, Adrian has said that if he were to win HOH, his nominees would be Keanu, Jimmy, and Morgan. Like, what? You're telling me that you campaigned for this guy to stay the entire week, but you can't even campaign for him to keep you off of the block? Like, that makes no sense to me. So it is showing that Morgan is being perceived as a bit of a threat. Adding on to that she is in this war against Katherine and Lauren and that contingent, and it just makes Morgan seem like such a threatening player so early on into the season. It really makes me worried about her. I really do see Morgan as like a Brooklyn from Big Brother 26 or an Amira from Big Brother 24, to where there are these players who are in power positions early on, but through some unlucky comp results and their power structure just crumbling underneath them, they get sniped out of the game. And I could definitely see that happen to Morgan if she isn't careful. However, she does still have a bunch of connections in this game. She still does have a lot of people that do want to work with her. So that is a definite plus for her, but I am still a bit worried for her, with some people clocking her with as big of a threat as she is, which is why I have her here at number 5.
You're killing me, Jimmy. Hello? This is so dumb. I just don't understand why you didn't talk through this with me. This is so ridiculous. You had other options.
At number 4, I have Mickey. And this is definitely going to be a bit of a controversial pick, but I think Mickey is in a very similar boat to Morgan. Mickey has so many connections. I genuinely believe Mickey is probably one of the most well-insulated players in the house right now. She has connections all over the place. She's very well connected with Jimmy and Rachel and that whole side of the house, but she does have working connections with the likes of Zach and Adrian, so that is a definite plus for her. However, she is in that same boat alongside Morgan in that she is having that war with the likes of Katherine and Lauren, and Katherine and Lauren have said that they were willing to put up Mickey and Morgan if they were to win HOH. However, I don't think Mickey would be the target. I do think that if anything, Morgan would be the target in front of her. So she does have protection in that sense. And she has the HOH interrogation power, to where if somebody like that were to win HOH, she could just overthrow it and just keep herself and her close allies safe. So I definitely do think that Mickey has a lot of potential. I do think she has the groundwork laid out for her to where she can very easily succeed in this game. Like as long as she can keep all of her soldiers in line and as long as no funny business happens, I think Mickey has a straight shot to the end. But as of right now, because there are some people who are tossing around the idea of potentially targeting Mickey and some people correctly clocking that Mickey does have a power, I have to put Mickey here at number 4.
So Jimmy just put up Will and Amy like he told me he was going to do. And I'm honestly just upset. Love Jimmy. Hate the game he's playing right now.
At number 3, I have Vince. And Vince genuinely shocked me. Like, Vince did a complete 180 from his HOH week. Now that Vince has been in this position where he's able to lie low and kind of fly under the radar and not really be in the limelight, he has capitalized on that tenfold. He has been able to make so many good bonds with so many different people that both sides genuinely want to work with him. Vince isn't necessarily a floater though, as he has chosen a side, wanting to stick with Rachel's side more because they are the people who are currently in power. But that's not to say that Vince doesn't have amazing connections with the other side of the house. He's connected with the people on the bottom like Keanu and Kelley. So if they were ever to unlikely come into power, Vince is still safe in that situation. But Vince is so well insulated with the people that are actually in power that they're not going to suspect that Vince has any sort of double dealings in that sense. So people genuinely want to take Vince far. Adding on to that, people are including Vince in their endgame plans. Like, people want to bring Vince to jury and beyond, which is absolutely insane considering the fact that people like Morgan and Mickey were vehemently against Vince in the beginning. But Vince has been able to flip that impression, and now Mickey and Morgan want to take Vince that far. So I am genuinely impressed with all of the good work that Vince has been doing. And if Vince can continue capitalizing on all of this good work that he's laying out for himself, and he doesn't make some boneheaded move or make himself a big threat for no reason, I could very easily see Vince skating all the way to jury, which is why I have him here at number 3.
Essentially, my goal right now is to be good with everybody, so I'm not going to tell anyone because I want to continue gaining trust with Keanu.
At number 2, I have Zach, and I was so close to putting Zach at number 1. Like, genuinely, after the veto ceremony, I had Zach at number 1 throughout this whole latter half of the week. But after some last minute conversations and talkings about Zach, I just didn't feel comfortable putting Zach at number 1. But that's not to say that Zach isn't in a great position. I know I said with people like Mickey how she's one of the most well-insulated players in the house. Zach is probably the best positioned in the house in terms of his social bonds. Everybody loves Zach. Everybody wants to include Zach in their alliances. Everybody views Zach as a valuable asset. And it's because he's fulfilling the role that I was talking about in the preseason. I said that Zach was just this likable, affable dude that people just naturally get along with and wanted to bring far and deep into the game. And that is exactly what Zach is doing. Despite Zach saying that he hates floaters, he wants to target the floaters, he himself is a floater. Mind you, he's not as much of a floater to where he's in the direct middle and he's really washing and waving with both sides of the house. But Zach does have the potential to do that if he wanted to. He has so many good connections on both sides. I am genuinely impressed, and I wouldn't see Zach getting targeted anytime soon if it weren't for the fact that Mickey and Morgan are saying that Zach is a huge endgame threat that they cannot let too close to the endgame, which is why they want to snipe him out towards the end of the pre-jury phase. However, even if they try to do that, he still has his secret $10,000 safety power, which he has told nobody about, making it the only truly secret power in the entire house. So as long as Zach doesn't leak that, I think that's going to pay off dividends for him. But the fact that people are starting to clock Zach as this big threat, even if the smallest inkling of that gets rolling, that's going to put him in a really bad position where people are just going to be frothing at the mouth to try and take Zach out. But even though it is only a small hiccup in his game, he still had a really good position, and I have a lot of faith in him going pretty decently far, which is why I have him here at number 2.
Dude's got my respect 1000%, and in my opinion, he is the definition of a man.
At number 1, the house guest I believe to be in the best position in the house as of week 2 is somehow Ava. Like, no disrespect to Ava. I absolutely love Ava as a character, as a personality. I love Ava. But if you would have told me that Ava was going to be in the best position in the house, I would have said, you're crazy. But genuinely, I think Ava is in the best position. She is loved by everyone, despite not being the most strategically active player in the world. Everybody loves Ava and adores her for her character and her quirkiness and her overall bluntness. Like, Ava is a bit of a simplistic strategic thinker in the sense that if she doesn't like you, she's going to target you. And because she is a bit predictable in that sense, people are incentivized to want to work with her because they know what moves Ava is going to make and they can plan around that. And I think if Ava can continue lowering her threat level by building up that perception, I think Ava is going to be due for very long in this game. Despite not being connected with the likes of Mickey and Morgan, they're saying that they want to take Ava super far into the game. We also have people like Rachel Rylie coming up to Ava and giving her a final 2. It's not Ava going to Rachel and saying, hey, can we make a final 2? No, it's Rachel going to her. And the fact that such a powerful player in Rachel wants to align herself with Ava, it just speaks greatly and so highly about how well Ava is doing. Adding on to that, she also has that final 2 with Will. She also has that great connection with Adrian, and she has that bond alliance that she named that she is, I'm pretty sure, very loyal to. I think Ava is set up perfectly in this game. As long as people don't start undervaluing Ava and start saying, oh, you know what, she's so likable, we can just throw her up on the block and she's not going to get mad and who's going to vote out Ava? As long as nobody does that to her, I think she is primed to make it a deep run in this season, which is why I have her here at number 1.
I am deathly afraid of the dark. And I go, nope. And I sit my ass down.
Overall, this house is messy, and I mean messy. Everybody in this house hates each other. Everybody has beef with somebody on really, really petty levels. Like, people are arguing about not doing the dishes or not cleaning up after themselves, or I've never seen you clean a sink before. Like, this house is so petty. I fully expect a full shouting match, like Keisha's birthday style, some point throughout this season, because this cast is so volatile, so confrontational, so willing to get in each other's faces. It is pure peak entertainment, and I absolutely love it. I live for the drama. I live for the chaos, and as a viewer and an audience and a longtime fan, this is what Big Brother is all about. Like, yes, it's a strategy game, but it's also an entertainment program. It's a TV show, and the product that they are producing is absolutely amazing, and I am here for it. But those are just my thoughts. Leave your thoughts in the comment section down below. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share with your friends if you have any of those, and I'll see you all in the next video. Peace.
Will, am I your lemon drop then?